Hey there, everyone. My name is Megan Dooley, and I'm an occupational therapist. And I'm here today to talk to you about dementia and driving and when to pursue a conversation with your loved one that has dementia, or when you, as somebody who has been diagnosed with dementia, should look at or consider stopping the occupation of driving. Driving is an activity or an occupation that requires a lot of quick responses and the ability to really have a lot of divided attention, whether it's scanning our environment quickly, navigating streets and signs, as well as controlling the vehicle. So if you or your loved one has been diagnosed with dementia, I encourage you to have this conversation early on with them so that it can be a collaborative decision. It can be a decision that each party or each person can be okay with, whether it's the individual with dementia or the caregiver or loved one that is helping that person. So once you've been diagnosed with dementia, there's a lot of things that are happening. But one thing that a lot of people, it's not a mistake that people make, but something that I think a lot of people look back on and wish they would have done a little differently, is don't avoid these conversations. Talk about, what are we going to do? A lot of times with progressive diseases, people want to not think about what is coming. But I'm here to tell you that the more that you can have a plan, that day when that decision comes won't be as hard, and it won't be such a major event because you and your loved one have come to that decision or had that discussion prior, and now it's just implementing that strategy as opposed to sitting down and trying to figure it all out when that person may be driving and it is very unsafe. They're upset about it. They're no longer able to understand why they can't drive. That can cause a lot of stress and anxiety for the individual with dementia, and also you as the caregiver and the loved one. So the first thing you want to do is start that conversation. Talk about, that there's going to come a time that they're not going to be able to drive. Discuss with them their responsibility as an adult to our society, to the kids of the world, to everyone else on the road. One way that I, as an occupational therapist, was able to reach a lot of my clients was just talking about them, being such a high risk of killing somebody, having a kid running across the street to get a ball or just playing outside, and that inability to respond quickly or understand your environment is putting them at risk for harming others. And many people don't want to do that. We don't want to get in our car and plan to harm someone. The other thing is that you really want to have this discussion with them as an equal, not as somebody who's laying down the law or telling them they have to, they're going to have to stop driving, but talking about it in a conversational way. Hey, maybe we should start reducing your driving to just in the local neighborhood, maybe down the street to the gas station. Talk about the steps and the progression that they would like to take, which we don't always know that we can based on the way the disease progresses, but have a plan of, if you start noticing these things happening, I will call this neighbor for a ride, or we've set up transportation to all of your favorite activities between the kids, and then some of your good friends are going to be able to pick you up. So that person doesn't feel like they are going to be a burden to their loved ones, but that there's already a plan in place. The other thing is talk to their physician. A physician has a lot of power for that individual because that's who they seek for guidance and clarity as the disease progresses, and ask them to advise the person not to drive if you are noticing some unsafe behavior. You can also ask the physician to write a letter or a prescription stating that the person with Alzheimer's must not drive. And then you can use this document to remind your loved one that they have been advised by their physician to not drive if they are forgetting or questioning why they can't have the keys or can't get in the car. The other thing that is great is to seek out early on a comprehensive driving evaluation. And this will really test your loved one's ability cognitively, physically, to navigate driving. So there's a cognitive component to it. Can they attend to all these things? Visual component to it. And then actual driving tests, should they pass the other parts to make sure that they are safe on the road and that they're able to navigate. And you can have these evaluations completed throughout the duration of the disease to help you as a family determine if they truly aren't safe to drive or if there should be some restrictions on their driving. Sometimes these discussions don't go well. These conversations can get emotional. The loved one with dementia can get very upset. There's a lot of things that are being taken away from them because of this disease. And you bringing up another component of what we all feel to be a pretty independent activity that we are given as young adults. And we hold that driving ability throughout much of our life. And it's something that can be very hard to give up for anybody just aging, recognizing that that's going to come with a lot of resistance and sadness. And this can be taken out on the person having the discussion of needing to take away or stop that driving activity. So you need to acknowledge and you need to respect that person, and you need to be somebody that's supportive for them. Maybe come back to the conversation, talk about how it's upsetting them, and that you just really want to have this conversation to be prepared for what's coming and to respect their wishes of, do you want us to keep the car, but you can't drive it, but does it help that you can see it and feel like it's yours? You don't want to blame them. You don't want to get angry with them. Acknowledge that this change is not going to be easy, but that you're there, you love them, and you're going to help them through it, and that there's a plan, and you can come up with a plan to make that transition easier. Don't blame yourself as the caregiver if it doesn't go well. If your loved one gets upset with you, they're angry, or they're crying, or they're refusing to do that, this is something, again, the disease can cause personality changes, mood changes. It can decrease their ability to actually control emotions and, comprehend on that level and rationalize the situation. So take a moment to yourself after that discussion, if it didn't go well, and just recollect yourself and maybe include some additional family members, loved ones, maybe a friend or somebody that they really respect, as well as their physician. The last resort for this is actually taking the keys away or disabling the car. When you do these things, make sure that you know what you're doing, but also that's a very difficult thing and can be very confusing to that person if they go out to the car and it's not working, and that can cause increased stress and anxiety and anger. That individual could come in and become very agitated with you because now the vehicle isn't working and they don't know why. So start with a conversation, start with a plan. If you're at that point where that conversation isn't the best option because of the disease progression, then you can look at getting rid of the car or disabling it so that that person can't get in and potentially harm someone else. Make sure that when you present that option of stopping driving, that there are options for transportation that are presented to that person, whether if you're in a bigger city, if it's a bus, Uber, a taxi service. My grandmother, helps for many years, had helped take people to different appointments and things. There are different services. In more rural communities, you're not going to have an Uber or a taxi system. So you may rely on friends and family in the community and just set up a nice rotation of who can take them to a doctor's appointment or who is going to be the one to pick them up for bridge that day. And make sure that you present that to that person so that they aren't feeling like they're going to have to give up a lot of other things that came with their ability to drive: church, grocery shopping, getting medications. If you can set up, delivery services, or maybe you set up a day that it is groceries, medicines, all those things at once, and somebody's going to take them out and get those things for them. The last thing I want to touch on is just signs of unsafe driving. So if you are with your loved one and you're starting to wonder about seeking, maybe a driving evaluation, When should you do that? Look for these warning signs. So forgetting how to locate familiar places, the church you've went to for 30 years, the neighbors, your children's homes, failure to observe traffic signs, just driving right through a stop sign, not stopping behind crosswalks, making slow or poor decisions in traffic. So driving excessively under the speed limit, taking forever to merge between a lane or turn a corner, driving at inappropriate speed. So either very slow or very, very fast, getting very confused about driving and angry, like, why is that person right there? Or why are we stopped, but there's clearly a red light? Poor lane control or hitting curbs, those type of things. Confusion with brake and gas pedals, and returning from a routine drive later than usual. So if you're not going with them and they're off to go, I'm going to run to the gas station, or I'm going to run to the parts store. And you know, that typically takes them about 45 minutes to drive there, get whatever they need and get back. And they come back 2 hours later. That's a clear sign that you should probably go with them next time and maybe feel out the situation, or, you know, start having that conversation about what took you so long. You know, it normally takes you this long, and kind of start digging into that. The other thing to really be aware of is if they forget where you're going when you're driving for a trip or a destination. Hey, can you run me to the grocery store? And they get in the car and they ask, hey, where were we headed again? Those type of things are some of those signs of unsafe driving, and you should really pursue some additional professional help with that. So I hope this kind of helps. Again, as caregivers, know that you are appreciated, loved, and very well respected for all that you do for your loved ones. If you have questions, please reach out below. I have my email or a phone way to contact me, or set up a phone conversation if you have additional questions. But I hope that everyone is doing well and understand that taking away someone's driving privileges is saving someone's life in the long run, and hopefully deterring you from having to deal with a situation that nobody, including your loved one with caregiver or loved one with dementia, would want to be put in should there ever be an accident or an incident because they were not able to safely drive any longer. Thank you and have a great day.